So with React Router, there is a lot into this, and we're going to end up building, by the end of this week, we're going to be building our own versions of this. Basically, a way to make a component that provides information to your application. So Browser Router is a pre-built one, but eventually we'll be building our own for our own information. This one's just for routing. Now, this is maintaining state. We don't see it, but it's setting up its own class component and maintaining state. So it knows what endpoint am I on and which one am I going to. That's part of the state that Browser Router remembers. Now we can get access to this state through 3 different props. And not only state, but the class that Browser Router sets up also has methods, pre-built methods that we can use. So we're using all these components, but all these components are receiving props. So when you use this component syntax, there's another word we'll use later called render. Right now, while you're using component, the component that is loaded automatically receives 3 props from from React Router. So let's go into home, see our props, and console.log props. See what these look like. And I'm not seeing them yet. How come? Not on the home page. So this is an important thing to know. When the component is not being viewed, the component is not being loaded. So this console log is only going to run now once I go to the home page and trigger that function to actually fire. So let's open up this props object. Because remember, I'm not passing any props down myself. I'm just loading the component. So let's look at these. And what 3 props do we see it gave us? History, location, and match. What data type are all 3 of them? They're all objects. So history, first and foremost. I haven't used all of these, but a fair amount. Most of this is for functionality. History is the history of where the user's been, where the user's going. So there's a go back, which is a method where if you put this on a button, it sends them to the previous page. There's a go forward, or there's a push where it says push them to a specific page. These are 3 methods among others that we can use for navigation purposes. So that's history. Location, it's keeping track of where you are right now. Right now I'm on /, I'm on my home route. It gets its own little ID that we can use for animation purposes later. But that's really all this is just more information about where you are, location. And then match has some interesting stuff. And we're going to look at params. This is the main reason you'll ever use match is params. We may peek at that later today. But this is provided by React Router, automatically given. And you want it in case you need it. For example, let's use the history prop to do some custom navigation, just to see how this would work. So in home, I have a props.history, but I also have it in about and contact because all 3 of these are loaded on routes. React Router is automatically passing them down. I'm going to put a button in home, go to contact. And I would like this button to send me to the contact page just like the link does. So props.history has a .go back or go forward or push. We're going to use the push. So the button's going to get an on click. And I'm going to use props.history.push to make it happen. Now, push, however, needs to be called with a path. It says, what path do you want to push to? I want to push to the contact path. That's where I want to go. But what does parentheses do to a function again? Yeah, so as you can see, even if I go to home or about, or yeah, I go to home, I'm instantly navigated to contact because this function is being called immediately. So what's the syntax I add to this to say wait until I click? Yep, I just throw in a little anonymous fat arrow function right here. Now it's saying wait till I click to call this, and then this is going to return this function call. Now I can go to the home page, click go to contact, and it's going to navigate me the same way. So history has a lot of these methods. Go back, go forward, push. One that you'll find use of in certain situations. You will end up using it. Yeah, so those are the props. So every component loaded on a route receives 3 props from withRouter DOM. They are, do you remember the 3 objects? History, location, and match. Now, there are cases where components are not receiving those props. So on the page right here, is there any component that's not receiving those 3 props? Navbar. How do we know navbar doesn't have those props? It's not, even more importantly, it's not loaded on a route. So the switch doesn't pass the props, the route does to the component. But navbar, yeah, if we went to navbar and console log props, let's say we are on the contact page, it should load on every page. We get an object that's empty, no props. Well, what if navbar needed these props for some reason, for navigation purposes? How could we say, actually, you should get these as well, even though you're not on a route? There's one more part of the package we can use for this, and it's called withRouter. A method used to provide the withRouter DOM props. So in navbar, I can import withRouter to provide these props. So up here in the destructuring where I took out link, I'm going to put a comma and also take withRouter. What's the difference between link and withRouter? Looking at their syntax up here, what's the difference between these two? This one's uppercase, this one isn't. So what does that tell you about this? It's a function, it's not a component. It's not a component, it's not uppercase. So it's a method we have to use that's provided from the withRouter DOM state. And the way that you use these methods is when you say export default navbar, you wrap the component with the method. And what this says is export default, first provide the navbar with the router prop. So this executes and returns navbar, but navbar now has the router props, and then it's being exported, so we can use it later. But this, as you can see right now, we have an empty object for my props. As soon as I say withRouter, what am I doing? withRouter, I have those props now. So you import it and use it like that. Just in case the component needs it, you can always provide it if you need to. So we'll end up writing our own versions of these as well. So we can provide, this is what context is. You know when I said, if we don't want our state to all be an app, we can kind of offshore it and provide it to where we need. This is how we'll be doing it to start off with. Okay, so browser router, switch, route, link, and then if needed, withRouter to get these props. So your exercise, if you choose to accept, is this fun thing. withRouter. Your goal is to make a single page application for a plumbing company website. You don't have to do plumbing if you don't want. Find something that excites you. If plumbing excites you, then cool. Your website should contain a navbar and a footer and a main view section. The navbar must contain at least 3 link tags and at least 3 different views. For example, home, about, services. The goal is to become proficient with withRouter, learning these 3 parts: link, switch, and route, along with browser router. Make sure you npm install withRouter DOM inside of your client folder, or sorry, inside of your directory here. So it gets added to the node modules. And then I would say make it so the navbar and the footer remain on the page every single page. Only the view swaps out. Is there any questions on that exercise? Yeah, -- save. So back like a year ago, probably when this was written, or somewhere around it, 2017 was when this was written. -- save used to be needed with Node in order for it to save your dependency as a list here. Like, so I installed React Router DOM. The only way to get it to show up in my package JSON was to add that. That's the default now, so you don't have to save it. It automatically will save it there. But it doesn't hurt to add it either. It'll do the same thing. So I think we give up until lunch on this, and then after lunch we'll have probably 2 more lessons today. One more on React Router, and then a little HTTP review, intro to that and React.